Summoned to another world to fight the Demon King, his classmates gained powerful skills, while he got convenience store. Mocked, betrayed, and falsely accused, he was cast out of the capital. It was the beginning of his new life as a merchant, from selling tea and rice balls to building an unstoppable trade network with goods no one's ever seen. His worthless skill becomes the ultimate cheat. Can a shopkeeper outshine the heroes who cast him aside? Let's find out. The story began with Akinose Kamata, the main character, being a completely normal high school student until recently. He walked out into the streets of the Grandale Kingdom and thought that a month had already passed since they were summoned to this world. The Dark Lord was still alive and well. In other words, nothing significant had happened since the day of the summoning. As for them, the summoned ones, after some time, Tamaki Saki, an assassin, asked him while eating food if he could increase the number of flavors for the onigiri, because she always got the same ones. MC thought with a serious face that this girl used to be the class representative. She looked modest, but in fact, she had the skill assassin. The girls began to climb up to him on the counter and say, "This store doesn't even have manga and magazines. The store usually has everything a person wants, right?" One of them noted that she always took fashion magazines from the stores every week. She would like to continue reading here too. The protagonist replied with displeasure that his shop doesn't have such things. He only has onigiri and bottles of tea. He doesn't even know how to develop the shop and his skill, so let them be patient. He thought that everyone around him was constantly making fun of his skill. But the shop has electricity, lighting, air conditioning, and the toilet even has toilet paper and a flush. In addition, there is a working computer that can be used to place orders. For modern people like them, this skill is really valuable. Although the selection of goods is limited, sometimes the locals drop by the shop and exchange their goods for products from this world. Sometimes they even bring him exotic fruits, so he has no problems with survival. Suddenly, Kawasaki Ryo, with the phone skill, and Kijima Shinji, with the tailor skill, entered the shop. He greeted him with a smile and noted that the great inhabitant of the palace came to visit them all. Shinji also greeted them with a smile and said that he is one of them. He came to use his toilet again. The protagonist replied with displeasure, letting him go already. But Ryo would be fine. He had nothing to brag about. Shinji, seeing Tamaki, exclaimed, "Why is the class rep sprawled out on a futon in the middle of the store?" She replied that it was because it was comfortable and convenient. MC thought that they were very noisy. That day, they were in class, and suddenly they found themselves in an unfamiliar place. That day, they were called by Cruces, the ruler of the eastern kingdom of Grandale, and she decided to grant them her power. He thought that, in short, in this world there is someone called the Dark Lord, someone like the Demon King, or something like that. He created monsters that caused a lot of evil to the world. Of the 7 countries on the continent, 2 have already been destroyed by the creations of the Dark Lord. In order to overcome the crisis, Grandale performed a ritual of summoning heroes from another world, described in ancient writings. And as a result, all of the students in their class were summoned, 31 people. Usually, only 3 or 4 heroes are summoned, so the people of this world were also puzzled. At that moment, Kuromochi Yuto, the local elite, said with a serious face that he could understand the reasons why they were summoned here. But could he ask something? MC thought nervously. This guy is a local elite with good grades and a pretty face. He is an extremely unpleasant guy. The guy turned to Cruces and pointed out that first of all, they are just students. If someone wanted to return to their world without fighting the Dark Lord, would she grant that wish? The girl replied that unfortunately, they cannot afford such a thing right now. Tamaki asked excitedly, but why? She explained that they lack the magic power to reopen the portal, but it can be obtained by defeating the Dark Lord. Then, perhaps, they will be able to use the necessary spell. The protagonist thought that everything was clear to him. In order to return home, they needed to defeat this lord. Yuto said thoughtfully, now he will ask the second question. They were, in fact, completely ordinary people with no abilities. How could they possibly be able to defeat the Dark Lord, before whom even the cool warriors of this world were powerless? Cruces answered that they did not need to worry about that. They were given special powers, which the inhabitants of their world could not have. In the writings, there were lines about heroes with unique abilities, to which the Dark Lord was vulnerable. If they simply thought about status check, they would immediately see their skills. The protagonist happily thought, is this true? He wondered what abilities he would have. He used status check, ability confirmation. At this time, MC thought about what and what in the end. He received the skills shop. He was hoping for cool martial arts or magic. He dreamed of a harem of elves, catgirls, and fairies. The day after the call, a full-fledged hero training program began in the royal palace. The first thing they did was select abilities to fight the Dark Lord. To his annoyance, the main hero turned out to be Yuto. He got 2 abilities, Immortality and the Blessing of the Goddess. The Immortality skill allows you to resurrect up to 5 times. The Blessing of the Goddess skill gives all characteristics the maximum level, possession of all types of magic, and the protection of the goddess, making it impossible for arrows and basic magic attacks to hit the hero. The protagonist nervously thought that this was unfair. He was a cheater, and besides that, There's also the swordsman Yukisaki, the marksman Sawano Ludi, the healer Kanai Miyoka, the water mage Kanamori Jun, the assassin Tamaki, the ice mage Kirishima Masaki, the spearman Minazuki Yohei, the shield mage Natori Mitsuki. The second squad and the reserve members of the first group replaced the wounded, and the third squad is declared incapable of combat, and he ended up here. Even his friend, the fire mage Sugita Yuki, ended up in the main team. What nonsense, and he doesn't envy it at all. But a month after the call-up, starting with the third squad, more and more people who couldn't stand life in an unfamiliar world and hard training fled to his shop. When will they defeat the Dark Lord? Will they be able to handle him at all? Suddenly, Tamaki quickly approached him and asked with a smile, "What happened?" He never looked thoughtful before. The MC got scared and embarrassed, replied that even he had important thoughts. "And what about them? The regulars from the first squad? Why were they hanging around here?" The girl answered with a smile that they were here because the air conditioning worked and there was a toilet with water. It was really comfortable here. She didn't really want to go back there. Not every one of them wanted to seriously fight the Dark Lord. The protagonist noted that everyone thought so, including him. Or did she think that most people were delighted with what was happening? Tamaki answered that no, only a small part of people. She didn't care at all about defeating this Dark Lord. He asked in surprise, "Was that true?" But if they, the first squad, didn't defeat him, they would stay here forever. So sitting around was not an option. The girl happily exclaimed that they had the ability to do this. So everything would be fine. She would protect him. The nice store owner, the protagonist, nervously replied that she should forgive him for being such a useless hero. After that, Tamaki said goodbye to everyone and left, followed by her group. MC thought, finally this crowd dispersed and it became quiet. Should he leave the doors open until the others returned? He had nothing to do anyway. Suddenly Yuto and Jun entered the room. He asked with a smile, "Is this where Yuhei disappears?" He was worried that he missed training again. The guy himself excitedly apologized and explained that he felt sick. The air conditioner was working here, so he thought this was the perfect place to rest. The protagonist wondered in confusion, why was he talking to him so formally? Jun chuckled and noted, "So this is where the heroes of the third squad gather. They use this store as a place to rest and support each other in their worthlessness. Well, for scum, this is quite a suitable place. Although there are almost no goods here, soon everything will be overgrown with grass." They exclaimed furiously, "Who does he think he is? Let him shut up and not get cocky because he got a strong skill." Yuhei said with a lost look, "Let them stop. They shouldn't be rude to these two." Suddenly Jun used his skill and attacked them. The protagonist, watching this, wondered in surprise. What was that? A powerful wave appeared right in the store, which began to carry away the members of the third squad. MC nervously thought, "So this is Jun's ability?" He called out to him with a serious face and said, "Let him stop." The guy with a sarcastic smile asked how he, an insignificant worm, dared to oppose him, a member of the main team. It turns out that scum even in another world remains scum. Oh, they can't hear him anymore. Yuto called out to him with a smile and asked, "Is that enough already, okay? He still needs to tell Kamada something important, and at this rate, he will wash him away far away." Jun stopped and replied that he understood. The guy approached the main character and said hello. He coughed up the water and said with a serious face that they hadn't talked to him for a long time. "It's been a month, right? He came after so long and immediately gave him water torture. That was a great greeting. He didn't even know he liked such cruelty. So what did he want to tell him?" Yuto replied that he would be brief. He wanted him to leave this city. MC was confused, wondering what he was saying. He added that his presence made some weaklings give up on reality, if it was only the worthless third squad. But now, even the members of the main squad were ready to run to his shop. The protagonist thought that he was also worried about this. But Yuto noted that in order to return to their world, they needed to defeat the Dark Lord. They needed to cooperate with each other, and his ability was not only useless, but also harmful. He replied that he understood what he wanted to say, but let him think for a while. Being suddenly thrown into an unfamiliar world was too much. Didn't he think? Yuto chuckled, apologized, and said that even with his generosity, he only has time until the morning. Although, if he knelt down and begged, he might be able to spare him some money for the journey. The Dark Lord would definitely be defeated by them, the chosen heroes. Their victory was inevitable, so he, a loser, could relax. He was looking far beyond the foreseeable future. He was thinking about what would happen after he won and returned home, about how he would save the modern world with his own hands. Modern society was filled with people suffocating from the lack of freedom of thought. He had gained the power to change that. The ability to resurrect, that was true immortality, an absolute magical power granted by the goddess, the blessing of the goddess. Wasn't he like a god now? If he returned to their world with these incredible powers, people would inevitably fear, revere, and worship him. This was the fate this world had given him. Well, now did he understand what kind of ideal he had become in the flesh? MC thought that this bastard seemed to have completely lost his mind. Or was this his true form? He asked with displeasure. Whatever the case, he just needed him to leave this town, right? Yuto agreed with a smile and added that he was glad that he was a reasonable person. Wherever he was, let him pray for their victory over the Dark Lord. After a while, the protagonist smiled and remarked that, honestly, his store was cool. All he had to do was close this place and reopen it, and everything would be fine. Tamaki, hearing this, exclaimed in frustration, frustration. What was he talking about? She heard that Yuhei and the others were in big trouble, and when she ran up, she saw that the store was in chaos, and Yuto actually told him to leave? That was just low. Such injustice couldn't be tolerated. She would tell him everything to his face. He replied with a serious face that he was pleased to hear such words, but wasn't she one of the chosen ones? Wouldn't that put her in an awkward position? The girl explained that, as she said, everyone in the current group of chosen ones had different levels of involvement, so everything was fine. The one who was working hardest in the hero training program was Yuto. Besides him, there was also the water mage Jun, and the ice mage Masaki. And then there was the shield mage Mitsuki and Saki, the swordsman. The rest, including her, were mostly holed up in the palace. Recently, many people had started skipping training. MC wondered, did that mean that only 5 of them were participating in the training against the Lord? Tamaki said that at first everyone diligently attended lectures, but when the practical lessons on hunting monsters began, everyone began to treat it differently. The other day they had a training battle with orcs, and Masaki, an ice mage, literally already riddled them with ice arrows. Everyone was in complete horror. The protagonist noted that after the incident with Jun, he was not even surprised. The girl exclaimed with displeasure that he was even worse. He can sadistically prolong the murder of any enemy, choosing the most painful methods. She simply cannot stand him. He asked, what about that psychopath? She asked, is he talking about Yuto? He seems like an ordinary, diligent, excellent student. He always completes tasks flawlessly, never skips training, so he has a good reputation in the palace. But she personally has always had disagreements with him, and lately, everyone is afraid of him. After training, they all return to their homes, and Yuto goes to the Crusade's chambers. MC exclaimed in wild shock that this bastard spends every night alone with that gorgeous girl? What a lustful freak he is. Tamaki asked in surprise what kind of priorities and grievances he has. He said with a thoughtful look that it turns out that Yuto has become the queen's lover, and is actually considered the future ruler of this country. Even Yohei decided not to contradict him. He is clearly afraid of him, but if they are mistaken, they can be accused of plotting against the favorite of the entire royal court. They can be severely punished for this. Tamaki noted that it is difficult for her to talk to him now. The main character, with a serious face, thought that after defeating the ruler, he was clearly up to something bad. At this time, the girl spread out the bed linen and went to bed. He looked at the clock and thought that there were only a few hours left until dawn. It seems to him that this psychopath has seized power. They are definitely enemies now. He can't even sleep today because he's worried about this whole situation. He hoped that Tamaki would be able to bring him to his senses. But if you think about it, it's better to just not stand in his way. Suddenly, several fire arrows flew into the store windows. The protagonist woke the girl up in fear and, grabbing her hand, led her after him. She screamed in fear, asking what was going on. He turned on the computer and replied that they needed to check the security cameras. Through the security camera, they saw Crusade standing on the street with her army. MC, in wild shock, noted that he didn't think that the queen herself would come to deal with him. She definitely came to kick him out on Yuto's orders. Tamaki excitedly exclaimed that this couldn't be. Why complicate the situation so much? He replied that it was all for intimidation. At this time, on the street, Crusade screamed, did this store hero hear her? She is the Queen of Grandale. He has been declared a heretic by the church for siding with the Dark Lord. From this day forward, he is banished from their kingdom forever. And that's not all. He has committed numerous crimes in the last month: kidnapping, illegal detention, attempted murder, blackmail. The list of his crimes is endless. They will no longer turn a blind eye to such things just because of his status as a hero. The protagonist, hearing this, exclaims in complete shock, when did he manage to become some kind of terrible criminal? Tamaki asked excitedly, what kind of nonsense is this? Kamada would never do something like that. It's a blatant lie. He said with a lost look. It was obvious that Yuto was just telling them some nonsense. At this time, the stupid idiot Crusade shouted at him to immediately submit and leave the country. If he does not submit, he will be burned along with the store. The MC thought with a serious face that he should at least get her out of here. He pointed his finger at the door and told her to run through the back door. Tamaki excitedly replied that she wouldn't abandon him. They could run away together. The protagonist smiled and noted that they were hunting him specifically. If she stayed, she would become their next target. He would just give up. Fortunately, he had a choice. The girl burst into tears and answered shyly that she didn't want that. She had promised to protect him. He wondered in surprise, had she always been so emotional? The protagonist patted her head and told her with a smile that she shouldn't worry. If they managed to escape and meet again, he would even let her use the restroom. He would also buy her more seaweed onigiri. So please, let her just do as he said. Tamaki shyly shouted that she only came to the store every day because he was there. MC threw her out on the street and told her that it was time to end this. Let her run away. He would pray for them to defeat the Dark Lord, so she should take care of herself. She screamed with tears in her eyes that he was an idiot. Let him remember that he had no right to die. The protagonist said goodbye to her, went to the front entrance, raised his hands and said that he surrendered. He would not resist. Instantly, the guards surrounded him and pointed spears at him. Crusades, with a serious face, noted that this was a good choice for a criminal. He thought that she was absolutely sure that he was guilty. She added that they would most likely never meet again. so she bid farewell to this useless hero of the store. Sometime later, he was expelled from the territory of the country. MC, with a serious face, asked why, of all people, he turned out to be useless. Sometime later, when it was already dark, he came to the Salatis forest and said that in this forest you could gouge out your eyes from the darkness. It was so dark that even the fields around his grandmother's house seemed less gloomy to him. He would go back to the city right now, but if they caught him, they would burn him alive, because now he was banished. If this continued, he would be the first hero from their class to die. Suddenly, the protagonist heard strange sounds and instantly summoned his store, right in the middle of the forest. Running inside, he turned on the surveillance cameras and, seeing many wolves, excitedly exclaimed that he was surrounded. They were clearly attracted to the light. He needed to quickly turn off the lights in the entire store. Wait, where is the switch? MC thought in fear. Is there really no switch? This is a 24-hour store. Has he ever turned off the lights here? Is there really no switch here? Maybe it reacts to clapping? He needs to barricade the entrances urgently. It will be better than nothing. He excitedly put the boxes near the door and shouted. How did it happen that he immediately got into trouble? The protagonist looked at the cameras and nervously thought that they had already penetrated. He could only wait in silence. They looked different from feral dogs and wolves. They were clearly some kind of monsters. If they attacked, he would definitely be finished. He saw how the monsters devoured all the onigiri and thought, let them eat as much as they want. Just let them get out of here. Suddenly, the protagonist accidentally dropped an object from the table and fearfully thought that that's it. The wolves, hearing this, began to diligently try to knock down the door. He began to look around fearfully and shouted that he needed at least something. MC grabbed a fire extinguisher and furiously shouted, let them try this. He sprayed it at the opponents and thought, great, he needs to continue in the same spirit. They can run away from this. A moment later, the extinguisher ran out. The protagonist exclaimed excitedly, and that was it? It only worked for a few seconds. He was going to die here now. He panicked and, laughing, noted that it looked like he really was the first to die. The protagonist thought that he would be eaten by the very first monsters he came across. He really was useless. Mom, Dad, Mimi the cat were probably worried about him now. He wondered if Tamaki had managed to escape. If she found out that he died here, would she cry? They weren't that close, so why was he thinking about her in his last moments? After a while, it began to get light and the wolves ran away. MC went outside and thought that it looked like he had survived. Are these monsters afraid of sunlight? Suddenly, a loud notification sounded that the store's hero had increased in level. He looked around in fear and shouted, what was that just now? Those weren't voices in his head, right? The protagonist checked his stats and wondered if his level had increased because he had protected the store. Wow, so much had been added. He really wanted to check it all out, but a little later, he fell right on the floor of the store and fell asleep. After some time, the protagonist suddenly woke up from a loud scream and asked what had happened again. He went to check the cameras with a serious face and wondered if the Grandel Knights were really on his tail? No, if that were the case, he would have been killed earlier. If not them, then who was it? The cameras were clear. He needed to figure it out for himself. MC went outside, hid behind a tree, and, seeing a carriage, thought that there was an attack by bandits there. What a horror. He needed to get out before they noticed him. Amidst all this noise, Tina Arnuish, the merchant's daughter, ran out of the carriage and began to run into the depths of the forest. The bandits noticed her and shouted that the girl had escaped. The protagonist, hearing this, was surprised to think, did anyone survive? He needs to protect her. What should he do now? Maybe he should help her? But he can't win on his own. One of the bandits shouted, let them not kill her. They will take her alive and have a good time. The protagonist, with a serious face, thought that he can't just up and leave her in trouble. After all, he is from another world. He created a new store right next to them and thought that he is very ashamed. MC ran inside and pointed to the girl to go inside. When she did this, he closed the door. The bandits, seeing this, began to shoot from a crossbow. One of them exclaimed, why is he frozen? Let him aim at his legs. In the store, the protagonist thought that it is safe inside the store. It remains only to decide what to do next. After a while, he went to the surveillance cameras and nervously said that he just thought that the troubles were over, and now they have piled up again. The protagonist looked at the girl and thought that she was quite pretty. Maybe she was an elf, although no, he didn't think so. Suddenly, the bandits began to break down the metal blinds with axes. The protagonist, with a serious face, noted that the fireproof blinds would not last long. Suddenly, Tina grabbed him by the clothes and pressed herself slightly. He thought with a smile that if he were a cool hero with superpowers, he would have saved her beautifully and effectively long ago. But alas, reality is an evil thing. MC asked, is she safe? When they break inside, he will distract their attention, and she will be able to escape at this time. Let her not be afraid. He will protect her. The girl was slightly embarrassed and smiled. Suddenly, the bandits got inside and began to shout, where is he? Let him stop playing. What kind of building is this? Suddenly, one of them pointed to the door, and they began to break it down. The protagonist thought with a serious face that they had arrived. They would repeat yesterday's strategy with the curtain. At this time, the girl would be able to escape. He grabbed the fire extinguisher and pointed, let her run through that door now. Suddenly, the protagonist looked at the cameras and, seeing that there was another bandit on the street, nervously thought that there was someone there. What should he do? He could pounce on him and let her escape, but then he would not be able to detain those inside. At this moment, the bandits had almost broken down the door and one of them shouted, "Let them kill them both." MC worriedly thought that they did not even let him think calmly. He saw a fire alarm on the ceiling and, taking matches, thought that the residents of Grandale were also very scared of this sound at first, and these bandits should not be an exception. The protagonist lit a match and brought it to the alarm, when suddenly a very loud sound was heard. The bandits exclaimed in fear, "What is this? Is this magic?" The protagonist hid under the table with the girl and thought that this sound is the perfect distraction. It will attract people from outside, and they will have a chance. Suddenly, black wolves came running to the noise. The bandits shouted loudly that a black wolf had gotten in. MC, hearing this, excitedly wondered, "Is this the same monster from last night?" He turned off the fire alarm and the bandits began to run away from the store in fear. Suddenly, one of the bandits stumbled and shouted for them to wait for him. The wolf furiously attacked him and killed him. The man's frantic scream was heard throughout the store. The protagonist hugged Tina and pressed her to himself. After a while, everything became quiet, and he noted with a smile that it seemed like they were gone. "Now everything is fine." She looked at him silently. The protagonist was very embarrassed and thought that he was so focused that he did not even realize that all this time he was holding such a cute girl in his arms, but he was just saving her life. The touches were not out of some kind of intention. He is not a pervert, right? Suddenly, the girl began to have hysterics, and she exclaimed that she was very scared. The protagonist embarrassedly hugged her and thought that, frankly speaking, he himself almost burst into tears. Before the monsters return, he urgently needs to restore the store. But she is still scared and hard. He thinks that he can wait a little. Suddenly, a notification was heard, saying that the store hero's level has increased. The protagonist opened the status window and, seeing a new window that said that it is now possible to turn off the lights, furiously exclaimed, "Why did this appear only at the 3rd level? This could have been added from the very beginning." After a while, Tina grabbed his hand and led him outside, smiling, saying that Kadina was to the west of here. If everything went smoothly, they would reach the city in a few days. She thanked him for saving her. She was truly grateful. Her name was Tina. She was 16 years old. She was the daughter of Sahar Arnush, a merchant from the city of Kadina, which was beyond this forest. MC thought about how she was only 16. Despite being his age, she seemed very independent to him. The girl told him that on the way to deliver cargo to the kingdom of Grandale, they were attacked by those bandits. The accompanying servants hit her during the raid, but they died. Let him please bury them and thank him again for everything. He replied that he couldn't leave everything like this. Tina asked with interest, "Was he some famous magician?" The protagonist answered in surprise that he was an ordinary person. His name is Kamata. Technically, he has the title of shop hero from another world, but that's not much. She interrupted him with admiration and asked, "Is he from another world? Is he a legendary hero from another world?" From what she heard, everyone here knows about heroes from other worlds. There are many books and legends about heroes, about how they defeated evil and saved the world. MC thought with an awkward smile, like King Arthur, Perseus, or Yamato Takeru from Japan. Something like that. What an honor for him. If she found out that he was not really a hero, but just an exile, she would be disappointed in him, right? He asked if she knew the way back from this forest. Tina agreed and noted that she had traveled a lot along trade routes, so she knew the way. The nearest settlement from here was her hometown. Let her be his guide? The protagonist asked in surprise. Is that possible? She happily agreed. After some time, he thought that in the end, he agreed to be accompanied. But even while they were walking, when they were eating, when they were doing gymnastics, why was she always holding his hand? Are all the girls in this world so brave? For him, an eternal loner, this was real torture. Tina looked at his face and worriedly asked if something had happened to him. Maybe he was unwell? MC answered sheepishly that everything was fine. They needed to get out of this forest as soon as possible before they were attacked by monsters or bandits again. The monsters of this world were mostly night creatures, right? The same black wolves, for example? She agreed and told him that there were many monsters with strong magic capable of moving under the sun. And bandits, as he had seen, acted even during the day, so they needed to be on their guard. He agreed with her and thought that, in any case, the danger level had not dropped. The main character asked where exactly they were going. He was talking about the city of Kadina. Is this place also under Granvale's rule? He thought nervously that he wanted to avoid places related to that kingdom. Tina explained with a smile that Kadina was an independent fortified city created by free traders. It was a large city with a thriving trade, one of the most famous trading hubs on the continent. The protagonist asked with a smile, was it supposed to be free? Just hearing the story made him curious. She replied that she wasn't sure about freedom, but the atmosphere there was unimaginably beautiful. After a while, MC thought that it was about 10 days walked to Kadina city. They walked through the forest during the day and hid in a store at night to avoid monsters and bandits. When it got dark, Tina ate and admiringly remarked that the sandwich and milk tea were delicious. He replied that she shouldn't rush so much, or she might choke. Their world has been at war with the Dark Lord's army for over 100 years, the girl agreed, and noted that this year marks 100 years since the first battle. The protagonist thought that according to Crusades, he thought that the crisis had happened recently and that they had time to train heroes, but this was a mistake. She excitedly told him that over the long years of war, people have lost a lot. There are rumors that the territories under the control of the Dark Lord are gradually expanding. To fix the situation, the kings of different lands began a summoning ritual, but in recent years, no country has been able to successfully carry it out. For the first time in 12 years, joyful news came about the successful summoning of a hero from another world to the kingdom of Grandale. In this battle with the army of the Lord, people saw hope. Everyone without exception places great hopes on the heroes. The protagonist answered with an awkward smile that he understands everything, although he is not sure that he can live up to these expectations. Tina exclaimed in admiration that it was not so. He was strong, handsome, kind, sensible, and a wonderful person. He saved her life. She already considered him the greatest hero. He thought excitedly that, although he was a hero from another world, he was an outcast. He received the shameful nickname Useless Hero, which was now carved into his characteristics. But he still could not tell the truth now. The protagonist thanked her with an awkward smile and thought that they would talk about it later. Tina asked with a smile what he planned to do after arriving in the city. He answered that he did not have any specific plans yet, and never had. She asked if he wanted to stay with her. Her father would be glad to receive him, and she also wanted to listen to his stories. The protagonist answered with a smile that he knew very little about this world, so perhaps he really would live with them for a while. He hoped that he would not bother them. The girl happily said that she would only be happy. MC thanked her and thought that he had not thought about the future at all. The range of goods had increased significantly. Maybe he should try to go into business? Hiding in the store all the time is not an option. He needs to learn more about the outside world. Strangely, he begins to overflow with enthusiasm. It turns out that having a goal is just wonderful. He happily said that they need to hurry to the city. After 10 days, they arrived in the city of Kadina. Tina happily pointed with her hand and noted that this was her hometown. MC, looking around, answered in surprise that it was a huge city. They approached the gates, and he noticed that it was just like the place where an anime festival was held. There were quite a lot of people here. She asked again in bewilderment, what kind of anime festival? The main character explained with a smile that there were always a lot of people there in his home world. Tina answered with a smile that it was great. She had heard stories from other heroes about Akihabara and Ikebukuro. She hoped that she would see it someday. He wondered if he could return. Would he be able to take her with him? Together, they would have great adventures in this world, defeat the Dark Lord, and he would decide to return to his world, and there he would see Tina who had moved, and they would live happily ever after. He quietly said, upset, that this was a banal ending. Such happy endings do not happen in life. The girl asked with a smile, did he say something? She was so happy to return home, and it was all thanks to him. He had done her such a favor that she could not thank him for her entire life. Please, let him allow her to express her gratitude in a different way. She asked him, let him take care of her further, and she will live only for him. The protagonist sheepishly thought that if you look with such angelic eyes, then anyone's heart will stop. He excitedly exclaimed that he hadn't really done anything. He should be the one thanking her. If it weren't for her, he would have gotten lost in that forest. Tina smiled and said that she was very glad that she could help him. Let him take care of her in the future. MC chuckled and said that their turn had come. She quickly approached the guards and they were immediately let through. He asked in surprise, is that all? Isn't it too easy? The protagonist wondered if her father might have more power than he thought. The girl he saved turned out to be the daughter of a millionaire. What kind of typical romance manga plot was starting? Tina explained that her pass allowed her to pass with people who weren't Kadin's citizens. Let him stop staring at her so hard, it embarrassed her. He wondered if he were a cool person, he would be a classic protagonist, and Tina would be the heroine. That's why he got such a crappy power? The protagonist asked if all these people standing in line were citizens of Kadina City. She replied that they were not. They were queuing to receive a pass. Only a limited number of citizens had one. This was the northern gate of the city, so you couldn't see it from here. But they had a district called Zastenia. Most of the people in line were from there. Many of them came into the city to work and then returned outside the wall. They were temporary workers. The MC noted that he didn't quite understand. Tina explained with a smile that there was a large residential area called Zasteni beyond the southern wall of the city. The people living there did not have the rights of citizens of Kadina. He exclaimed in surprise, outside the city, there was basically another city? How huge was this city? The protagonist smiled and wondered if he would get lost. Tina happily grabbed his hand and said, let her take him to her house. She wanted to introduce him to her father as soon as possible. After a while, they entered the territory of a huge mansion. He was shocked to notice that she was, after all, the daughter of a rich man. The girl was perplexed, wondering if there was some problem with that. The protagonist wondered if she was a noble lady whose hand he shouldn't have held. Was this the story of a bride from another world for the hero? At least he wouldn't get into trouble for all of this. Suddenly, Adonis, the butler of the Arnuish family, called out to her in shock and said that it was a blessing that she was alive. She happily ran to hug him. He said that when he heard about the attack, he thought he would die of worry. How good that she was okay. Tina replied with a smile, let him forgive her for making him worry. This man saved her. This is Mr. Kamata, her savior. Adonis put his hand on his heart, introduced himself and bowed down, saying that he thanked him from the bottom of his heart for saving his lady. The protagonist excitedly replied that he shouldn't. Suddenly, her father came, exclaiming that she was alive. MC, watching this, thought with a smile that he was glad that she was safely reunited with her father. A good ending to this story. Suddenly, the man slapped her in the face and furiously shouted, "What happened to the cargo?" She returned with nothing, only having lost important family assets. Until she compensated for the losses and brought in a profit, let her not even think about coming back. The protagonist angrily called out to her and tried to intervene, but Adonis grabbed him and pointed out that this was the business of the Arnuish family. It was better for outsiders not to interfere. He exclaimed furiously, he allows himself to talk like that to his daughter, who barely escaped death? How can he call himself a father after this? Sahara asked in confusion, who is this ragamuffin? How dare he speak to him so rudely? Doesn't he understand the rules of this city? Tina stopped him excitedly and shouted that this man risked his life to protect her. One day, he will save this world. Mr. Kamata is a hero from another world. The man thoughtfully told him that among the heroes who were recognized 2 weeks ago, he was the most useless and worthless. He was expelled and recognized as a non-entity. It was he, the same scoundrel who committed many crimes. The protagonist nervously thought that this is how Tina learned the truth. Sahara furiously shouted that even talking to such a non-entity was already ruining the reputation of their family. Let him go away from here. The girl with tears in her eyes exclaimed that he was her hero. Let him not dare talk to him like that. Her father grabbed her hand and pointed out that since she returned alive, she should get back to work. She did not have time to stand and chat. She hysterically extended her hand to the protagonist and called out to him. He asked the butler, so this was the walled area? Compared to the inner quarters, this place was more like some kind of ghetto. It reminded him of the slums. The man bowed his head and said let him offer him a sincere apology for his master's rude words. MC replied that he should apologize. Let them forgive him. He had no right to interfere in the affairs of the Tina family. He thought that sooner or later they would separate, but not so soon. Although, even if he took her away by force, it would only create more problems. He needed to collect his thoughts and move on. The protagonist asked if he could ask one more question. The thing is, he would like to open his own business in the city. Could he tell him where he could find a suitable place for a store? Adonis answered thoughtfully that he would have to do this behind the walls. Without citizenship, it was impossible to conduct trade within the walls. After some time, the protagonist thought that, according to the butler, living and trading in that area is freely available. The only rule here is that newcomers are not driven away, but they will have to settle on the outer side of the area, away from the wall, where the risk of attacks is high. In fact, it is a living wall of people. He has a feeling of complete defenselessness. He hopes that there will be no problems. Well, then a new life in another world begins. He created his store on the empty territory and shouted that he was glad to invite everyone from another world to the store. He has only the rarest goods. Let them pounce. The residents began to come inside in surprise and look around. MC thought that he remembered the residents of Grandale. Previously, he tried not to contact the locals much, but now his assortment has increased significantly. And most importantly, he has a great desire to do business. Everything will work out. A woman approached him and excitedly asked what a store was. The protagonist answered with a smile that it was a shop where they sold rare products and goods from another world. That's what they called a store. Let them please not be shy. The man took the goods and put them on the cash register, saying that he would take this. He happily noted that his first purchase was a BLT sandwich. It tasted great. The protagonist thought that he needed to create a good impression so that people would come here again and again. The man asked how much it cost. He thought in horror that he had not thought about the prices of the goods at all. If you think about it, he never had to spend money in Grandale. He received a royal allowance, but he never used it. He didn't even go shopping like others. He heard that there were 4 types of coins in this world, but what are they even called? He didn't understand the value of this at all. Okay, now he will sort this out. MC said with a smile that all the goods were for 1 bronze coin. All the people immediately started grabbing the goods and shouting, "Let him take it." He was in wild shock, thinking that he had screwed up with the price. Sometime later, when it got dark, the protagonist closed the store, and with a tired look, noted that it had been a crazy day. Later, a kind woman explained to him that the local currency exchange rate was approximately like this: 1 large gold coin, 100,000 yen. 1 gold coin, 10,000 yen. 1 silver coin, 1,000 yen. 1 bronze coin, 10 yen. That's the conversion. It turns out that for 1 bronze coin, you could buy as much as a person wanted. If such a store existed in his world, he would go there every day. People were so happy. But now it is clear to him how reckless he was. The protagonist thought that if this had happened earlier, he would have asked Tin about the local currency in advance. How is it even there? She must have become disappointed in him. If only he could see her again. Thus, a month passed since the store opened. The protagonist, working another day, thought that he had already even gotten used to the hard work in the store. He set the prices for the goods. The limit is no more than 5 items per person. The toilet is only available to visitors. The inscription, 24 hours a day, on the sign is a pure lie, but he hopes that the locals do not understand the numbers. The store has 1 cash register. Everything is the same, but the people from this area have begun to care about him. Maybe he has finally become a part of this place? It seems to him that he has found what he was looking for in this world: purpose. After some time, Zeril knocked on the store door and said that he came for goods. The protagonist let him in and, pointing to the bags of money, noted that this was the proceeds from yesterday. He noted with a smile that he is as good at trading as always. He envies him very much. MC thought that this suspicious guy is Zeril, a merchant from the west. They met about a week after the store opened. That day, when he was going to take a break, he suddenly talked to him. He remembered how Zeril came to him and said that he had an interesting offer. Could they talk? The protagonist thought that this guy is very suspicious. He asked how he exchanges his earnings. The protagonist asked in confusion, what is he talking about? The man explained that all the goods cost 1 bronze coin, right? So every day he accumulates thousands, if not tens of thousands of coins, and he certainly faces the problem of storing all this. If he wants, he can exchange it for gold coins. Of course, it is not free. He would take 0.5% of the amount for the service. It is a good offer, isn't it? MC thought that this is very suspicious, but the store really has too many coins. Maybe he should try? At present, he gave him the bag and thought that this was how their cooperation began. At the very beginning of their business relationship, he felt uneasy, but he and Zeril have been cooperating ever since. After some time, the man came to him again and happily noted that the gold coins had arrived. It was time for them to make an exchange. He was already called the deity of this area. The protagonist nervously replied, let him stop with the nicknames already. In this world, there is only one goddess, Astia, right? Zeril agreed and added that in this world, the word deity is associated with her. Because of this, not only in Grandale, but all the kingdoms are ruled by women. And all the great people are also women. Therefore, those whose deeds are like saints are revered as the incarnation of the goddess Astia. The protagonist replied that even if this were so, it was still strange to him. Zeril happily noted that the very fact of his existence is a miracle, and it does not matter who he is, a man or a woman. How could the people of Grandale so unceremoniously banish a hero with such amazing abilities? What fools they were. He wondered in confusion. Had even he heard about this? He had business negotiations with Grandale, but nothing came of it. MC thought. He wondered how Tamaki was doing now. He wondered how things were in Grandale now. The merchant said that, apart from the information about his exile, the other kingdoms actively support the heroes. But Grandale categorically refuses to the heroes leave the country. So far, that's all he knows, and he's so curious about what's going on there. The protagonist agreed and added that, although there are some bastards among the many heroes, his friends are still there, so he wonders how they are doing there now. Zeril replied with a smile that he would then order his people to investigate. If this is his request, he will do everything in the best possible way. He thanked him and asked why he treats him so well. What does he gain from this? The merchant, perplexed, asked what he meant. In his opinion, over the past few hundred years, he is the greatest hero. He will be honest with him. In fact, no one wants the heroes to defeat the Dark Lord. The war with him has long been part of a huge economic system. If the Dark Lord disappears, the countries that trade resources for the war effort and the mercenaries will lose their jobs. The entire world will go into crisis, and millions of people will fall into poverty. This number will be much greater than the number of people killed by monsters. MC wondered what it means that Grandale is resisting the requests of other countries in order to maintain some kind of leadership. Zeril added that the world food crisis can be solved in an instant if he is here. After all, he has the ability to create resources out of nothing in unlimited quantities. That is why he is the true incarnation of the goddess Astia. The protagonist asked in confusion, can he create products infinitely? Why does he think so? He nervously wondered that he only told Tina about the store system. How did this guy know about it? The merchant replied that he always goes to this store and even organized 24-hour surveillance for his people. And he has never seen anyone deliver goods, and the store building itself appeared here too mysteriously. and then he realized that perhaps the goods are created right inside. He's not wrong about that, is he? MC thought that he was smart, but not that smart. It's better for them not to become enemies. He nervously said that they should keep it as a trade secret. Zeril answered with a smile that he would not dig deeper, because he was a valuable partner who was much more important than those who killed monsters. He would like to continue their peaceful relations further. The protagonist noted that he also helps him a lot. The merchant grabbed the bags and, approaching the exit, said that today he would collect news about Grandale, and later he would report everything to him. He thanked him and, saying goodbye, noted that he was counting on him. When the guy left, MC said with a smile that he also needed to get down to business. After some time, he sat down to write a report on the computer, and, hearing a knock on the door, wondered in surprise that the residents of the area could not know about the emergency exit. Could these really be mercenaries from Sahar? The protagonist approached the door and, opening it, asked who was there. Tina stood on the threshold, who answered with a smile that it was her. The girl happily hugged him and noted that they had not seen each other for a long time. She really wanted to meet him. Now they met. She is very happy. MC shed tears and, hugging her, thought that he felt the fullness of life. The protagonist wondered if Tina liked him. Only his cat Mimi clung to him so tightly. He thought that he needed to tear the girl away from himself already. Otherwise, unnecessary thoughts would creep in. The protagonist unclenched the girl's hands and said that he was also very glad to meet them. He suggested that she quickly go inside the store. Tina agreed to his offer. MC asked her, after all, how she managed to find him in this city. She smiled and answered him. She heard from Adonis that the protagonist went beyond the walls, and rumors about a thriving store went around, and she immediately understood everything. He thoughtfully said that now he understood it. The girl added that in fact, she wanted to come earlier, but she was forbidden to leave the house. The protagonist assured her that there was nothing to worry about. He added that he should apologize because he didn't tell her that he was kicked out of Grandale. Let her forgive him for that. Tina looked at him with a loving look and noted that he had absolutely nothing to apologize for. He asked her in surprise, what was she talking about? The girl continued, because he was a great hero. She still couldn't believe that Grandale had made such a mistake by kicking him out. The people of this country must be bitterly regretting it now. She confessed to him, in fact, she had been watching his store since noon. The protagonist was indignant. What was she saying? Why didn't she tell him about it right away? Tina smiled and said, now a lot of people come to his store and they all leave with a smile. She noted, isn't this what every real hero wants to achieve? MC was embarrassed and said that it was not so. It's just that the goods in his store are cheap. It doesn't mean that he is of use to someone. Tina exclaimed indignantly. It's not true. It's thanks to him that this is possible. And she thinks that his ability is superior to any other. The protagonist chuckled in surprise and thought, it seems that Zeril said something similar. Tina continued, she is the daughter of a merchant and she has a certain insight in trade. The protagonist smiled and noted, is that so? The girl said that he is indeed an amazing hero. And also, he saved her life. He is the coolest hero in this world. Tina noted, perhaps he thinks that, because he lacks the ability to fight monsters, he is useless? But this is all nonsense. Even if he cannot fight, he has endless potential to save many lives. She asked him to be proud of his ability. The protagonist thanked her for her support and added that he felt like a weight had been lifted from his soul. Tina took his hand and looking into his eyes, she said heartfeltly that no matter how the circumstances turned out, she would always be by his side. As it seemed to him, the girl wanted to confess to him a deeper and stronger feeling. He panicked. This was too out of place. He was not ready for this yet. He pushed Tina away from himself. She was very surprised by his reaction. He smiled and said that it was time for him to end his break. He needed to open the store as soon as possible. Otherwise, the customers were waiting. The girl noted with bewilderment that all this sounded somehow feigned. The protagonist protested. This was not true. About 2 months had passed since Tina returned. His store continued to enjoy incredible success. He only had time to greet everyone, express his gratitude to the customers for their visit, and rush around the store with goods. After some time, Tina told him that the flow of customers died down. He could rest a little. The protagonist thanked her for her concern. He told her that she was right. He would rest for a while, but she should call him if anything happened. Tina assured him that she would do so. He could leave the rest to her. She asked him if she could help him in his shop. The protagonist thought about it in surprise. The girl continued. She had already told her father that she was going on an apprenticeship, so she could stay here for a long time. The protagonist asked her in amazement, that is, she would live here? She happily said that now they could live together again. She would try her best. He should not worry and rely on her. The protagonist was sweating from the tension. This was what had befallen him, but looking at her happy smile, he thought that this was what he wanted to protect. Maybe she was even better than he thought, and Zeril and the merchants of this city were all so kind? The protagonist answered her with a smile that she knew a lot, and most importantly, she had earned his trust, which calmed him down, so she could count on him. Tina, smiling happily, thanked him, and noted that she knew everything about him. He could rest easy. The protagonist objected to her. He meant the store, not himself. He immediately asked her everything, like, what did she mean? Tina answered him that it was true. Sometimes when he addressed her by a pet name, it sounded so frank, and he sometimes talked about her birthmark on her back or waist, and he often looked at her. The protagonist was completely embarrassed. What? Falling to his knees in front of her, he asked her for forgiveness. The girl told him that he had nothing to apologize for. And so, they came to the present moment. The store was still extremely popular, but thanks to Tina, everything was running smoothly. Finally, he could eat in peace, rest, and even indulge in dreams for a while. He realized that in this world he no longer felt lonely. He stretched his arms up, stretching his body, and thought with satisfaction that his life had become very rich. After a while, he told her that it was late, it was time for her to rest. Tina meekly agreed with him. Sitting at the computer, she added that she would quickly enter today's revenue into the database, and he could rest for now. The protagonist looked at her in surprise. He thought he was almost never surprised by anything anymore, but the girl's competence always amazed him. He went to bed and thought that if there was the internet, she would probably immediately figure out how to promote their products through websites and advertising. It was so easy to do. Having finished her work, Tina turned off the light and tried to lie down with the protagonist. His reaction to this attempt of hers was too categorical. He exclaimed for her to stop. The girl sadly went to her bed, muttering that she had failed again today. The protagonist thought he clearly heard her click her tongue. How hard it was for him to resist such a temptation. But once he crossed the line, there was no turning back. How could he get rid of this trial? Tina, climbing into her bed, wished him good night. He wished her the same. The girl thought with determination that she would not give up. Tomorrow she would try again. So, during the day he had the management of the store, and in the evening a simulated fight with Tina. And then one day, the sound of the system was heard, which informed him that his level had increased. The protagonist exclaimed in surprise. What did he do? All the customers stared at him in surprise. The protagonist, noting this, cursed, because only he could hear the sound of the level increasing. He turned to Tina, apologized to the front, and told her that he needed to take the office for a while. The girl said in surprise that she understood him. Entering the office, MC racked his brains. He did not fight with anyone, and did not defend himself at night. Then why? Maybe it was a system error? He decided that he had better check it. MC activated the status check. The system told him, in addition to his constant data, that his profession was a level 4 hero of another world, a level 4 shop skill. Health had an indicator of 8, agility 5, mana 0, luck 8. There were no learned spells as well as learned skills. He had the title of the deity of the wall. The level of the store's goods reached level 4, as well as the durability of the store. New goods became available to him. A snack with caviar, egg, and chicken sandwiches, energy drinks, oolong tea, buns, French fries with consommé flavor, and pudding. Household goods were also added, such as white t-shirts, shirts, men's underwear, and socks. The protective system included fire gates with a magical barrier, a device to repel lower monsters, and a drone for reconnaissance. The protagonist thought with a smile, this is clearly not a system error. So the level goes up even without battles? He went up just by managing the store. This was much cooler than fighting. The protagonist noted that new icons had appeared on the desktop. Perhaps this store had devices specifically for this world. It was difficult to understand their meaning at first glance, but judging by the name, it is better not to use them just like that. He looked at the icon with a picture of a drone and thought, this reconnaissance device seems safe, right? It seems that there will be no real harm from it. The protagonist decided to try to launch it. When he did, MC delightedly realized that the drone was flying out of the roof, and it rose so high. Looking at the monitor, the protagonist saw everything in full view. He even saw a man sleeping on the roof of the store. It was so cool that the protagonist did not immediately understand. A person sleeping on the roof of the store? Having brought the drone closer to the object, the protagonist was on the verge of insanity. What is this? Why is the one who should be in Grandale here? MC quickly climbed to the roof and indignantly asked Tamaki what she was doing here. The girl shuddered from his call, but then she smiled and greeted him. She wanted to tell him that they had not seen each other for a long time, but at that moment she fell off the curb. The protagonist anxiously asked her, is she okay? The girl rubbed the bruised place and indignantly said that it hurt. Let him not scare her like that. If there are bruises on her delicate skin, it will be his fault. The protagonist asked her in surprise, why is she dressed like that? And most importantly, why is she here? His ally's outfit really did raise some questions, but she did not pay attention to it. Tamaki told him that she came for him. The protagonist looked at her in bewilderment. Meanwhile, Zeril, having listened to his reporter, asked him if it was true. The interlocutor confirmed that the report was accurate. Zeril looked at the surroundings and said that it would be hot. At that moment, the protagonist asked Tamaki how she got here. The girl answered him that during the hero training program, her level increased, and she received the ability to search for and track down enemies. That's why she ran out of the city and came here. MC asked her in amazement, did she go through this forest herself? There were monsters everywhere. She noted, well, so this is her ability. How assassin, she used stealth. Seeing his bewilderment, the girl explained to him that this skill allows you to completely hide the presence of the owner of this skill. That's why she managed to escape, even when monsters were chasing her. The protagonist winced at her words. She noted in surprise, what kind of reaction did he have? This is so cool. Where is his admiration? The protagonist thought, searching and tracking the enemy, and stealth too? What is she saying? Both of her abilities are so cool. he realized that he was very jealous of her, and he only got more types of onigiri, but what does that change at all? Out loud, he answered her that it was not so important. He was more interested in something else. Did she run away? Tamaki was very embarrassed and admitted to him that it was so. She ran away from the hero training program. It is becoming more and more difficult, and she does not have time. The protagonist said, seriously? And she is sure that this is enough to defeat the Lord of Demons? The girl, she answered him carelessly that it was no big deal. It seemed like an elite group had already been formed with Yuto at the head. They could win without her. The protagonist was surprised. Was that true? He asked her how the others were doing. Was she doing well? Tamaki noted that she thought she could say that. Everyone in Team 3 was worried about him. She thought that many had been saved by the convenience store within walking distance, but now some had even become recluses. Many in Team 1 took Yuto's story at face value and thought that he had been expelled due to his own fault. The protagonist noted that Team 1 had not accepted him from the start. Tamaki laughed and added that his friend Yuki was very worried. He was always indignant. How could they do that to his best friend? He hoped that he was okay. The girl suddenly asked him if he knew Asagiri Reika. The protagonist repeated the name thoughtfully. He remembered little about her. She replied him that she disappeared around the same time as the protagonist left the city. It seems that Yohei met her by chance at the gate. She told him that since Kanata, who was the object of her observations, was eventually banished, she also had nothing to do in the city anymore. From now on, she decided to travel freely, so she asked Yuhei to take care of himself. After saying goodbye to him, she left the city. The protagonist was surprised. She was watching him, but why did she do that? Tamaki said that she herself did not understand this. Maybe she chased after him. The protagonist answered her that he had never seen her. He asked the girl, is it normal for Reiku from the third team to leave alone? Tamaki said she heard that she had the ability poem, but she did not know what kind of ability it was. MC asked her, can't she find her with her skill search and track? The girl answered him that without the things of the person they were looking for, nothing would work. Unfortunately, she took everything with her. The protagonist said that everything was clear to him. He added that in that case, he knew a merchant with a good reputation. He would ask him. Maybe he had some information about Reiku. Tamaki was surprised. Was that true? She would be very grateful to him for that. She also thanked him for being so worried about this missing girl. He was surprised. Wasn't it obvious? He hoped that everyone from his class would survive. He wanted them to all return to their homeworld together. Tamaki looked at him in surprise at first. Then she laughed and noted that everything was clear to her. They all needed to return safe and sound. The protagonist noted, that's right, he was interested, so her search and tracking skill couldn't be used if she didn't have the target's things, right? Maybe he should give her something? She asked him with delight what he would give her. Tamaki herself at this time quietly slid the pendant behind her backpack and thought it seems he did not notice it. At this time, Tina came out to them. She told him that they were running out of sandwiches. She noticed Tamaki and exclaimed, he had a guest. She apologizes to them for interrupting them. The protagonist's interlocutor asked him who this nice girl was. The protagonist smiled, of course, this was their first meeting. He answered her that Tina was an employee he hired. Tina smiled and added that during the day they worked together in a store, and at night they shared a house and took care of each other. She told her name and noted that she was a little clumsy, so she hoped that Tamaki would not hold a grudge against her. Tamaki even screamed in surprise. The protagonist grumbled at her. Why was she screaming? She instantly calmed down, laughed, and said, so, Tina is just an employee. She didn't know that he was experiencing a labor shortage. The protagonist muttered, and now he was talking about the same thing. She asked him if he would maybe hire her too. Tina answered instead, saying that she was very sorry, but since she started working here, the shortage of hands had decreased, and now 2 people are quite enough. She turned to the protagonist and asked him, isn't that right? The protagonist was embarrassed, but then answered her that it was true. Thanks to Tina, everything had become much easier, and yet the labor shortage was still felt. Tamaki rejoiced. Tina indignantly said his name. The protagonist calmed his assistant down. Tamaki can be noisy and selfish, and she is also sloppy like an old man, but she is not so bad. Tamaki, listening and thought, is this a compliment? The protagonist turned to her and asked her, by the way, she doesn't know yet that the level of his store has increased, right? The girl made it clear to him, with her whole appearance, that this was true. When they went down to the store, Tamaki, seeing everything, exclaimed in admiration, where did so much stuff come from? It's just amazing. They really have a lot of sandwiches, rice balls, and drinks. In addition, a large selection of sweets like puddings and melon bread. Is this a utopia? The main character laughed and answered her. And once he had only 3 products, does she remember that? Tamaki rushed to hug him and exclaimed that she wanted to live here for the rest of her life. He really is the best. Tina didn't like this at all. It was clear how indignantly she tensed up. Tamaki began to run around the store, shouting that this was incredible. Do they have a soda that goes great with fries? Surprised Tina, watching the chaotic movements, girls said, oh my god. The protagonist just chuckled. Tamaki, meanwhile, continued to exclaim that she would try everything here. The protagonist told Tina that his classmate was very funny. The girl noted in amazement, that's for sure. MC continued, despite her eccentricity, she always takes care of their classmates and of him. He hoped that she would get along with her too. Tina smiled and told him that she would. She apologized to him for being rude to her earlier. After all, she is his best friend. It is a great great honor for her to have the opportunity to meet heroes from another world. Tamaki said that from tomorrow she will work hard so they can rely on her. The next day, after working for a while, Tamaki suggested that they take a break. She was wildly tired. The protagonist noted that it happened too quickly. Looking at the clock, he said, there are no visitors, so they really can take a break. For some reason, it seemed to him that there were fewer customers today than usual. Tina told him that she would close the door. MC thanked her. Suddenly, she said that there was a customer outside. The protagonist asked her again, what did she say? He looked at the door and was surprised to notice the head of the district, Soshi Melty, who was the head of the district, came to his store. The protagonist thought, although she was called that, there is no clear administrative division in the outside world. She is an elder and often acts as an organizer of meetings for residents. The protagonist, together with his assistants, sat her down at the table and treated her to his dishes. The woman noted that these French fries are very tasty. She likes them so much. The protagonist smiled and thought, soft and friendly. Melty is loved by all the locals. She is called the head of the district and the mother of the district beyond the wall. Melty thanked them for their hospitality. The protagonist said that he was very grateful to her that she accepted him as a newcomer. The woman answered him, he had now become an indispensable person in their area, so they should be grateful to him. She asked him if he wanted to introduce her to his employees. Tamaki exclaimed that she was glad to meet her. The girl said her name and noted that she, like MC, was a hero from another world. Melty was very surprised by this and said that it was a great honor for them to have two heroes in the outer wall area. Tina modestly thanked Melty for taking care of them. The girl told her name. The protagonist thought that Tina was worried about her being from the central part of the city. Melty took the girl's hand and said that she was just like an angel. She had been told for a long time that a nice young girl worked here. She was very glad that she met the same Tina she had heard so much about. The girl looked at the woman in surprise. She thanked her and added that she was also glad to meet her. The protagonist smiled and noted, he thanks her for finding the time to come to them today. Does she have some business with him? The woman answered him. In fact, she came here to tell them something important. She looked at him with pity and said she wants him to leave this place with this store immediately. She added that she was very sorry. At that moment, Zeril said that he supported this decision. The protagonist, not having time to be surprised by the woman's message, was even more surprised. And when did he manage to appear here? Honestly, his unexpected arrival made the protagonist's assistants shudder. The man answered him. He was so absorbed in the conversation that he did not even notice him, so he just walked through the door. He smiled and noted, the head and Tina, as always, were beautiful. Noticing Tamaki, he was surprised. Well, before he could come to his senses, the number of beautiful and charming flowers increased. Tamaki laughed in surprise. Flowers? Melty turned to Zeril and said that he had come at the right time. She was talking to the protagonist. The man sheepishly apologized to her and asked her to continue their conversation. Melty explained to the protagonist, in order to avoid misunderstandings, she would say that this was necessary, first and foremost for his protection and this shop. She would like him to leave this place temporarily. The protagonist asked her in confusion, for his protection and the shop? She continued, a giant earth dragon has lived in this region since ancient times. Kadis is an ancient monster that existed in this land even before the current demon lord created monsters. It usually nests deep in the mountains and sleeps peacefully. But once every 4 years, it still comes down from the mountains in search of food. The protagonist exclaimed in surprise. What did she say? Why is she only talking about this several months after his arrival in the outer wall area? His indignation made even Zeril feel uneasy. He thought the protagonist knew about it. The man added, the giant wall in the city is also a defense against the ferocious earth dragon. MC thought, so the fact that the newbies have to live outside is a precaution against the earth dragon? Somehow, it didn't seem serious. He pointed out, well, this earth dragon named Kadis will attack. But what about the residents outside the wall? It's not enough for him to be safe, right? Zeril told him, of course, most people are temporarily evacuated, but some residents still have problems with money and health. Without the ability to evacuate, they become victims of the dragon. The protagonist reasonably pointed out, why can't the people in the city help them? There are probably at least a few knights in the walled area, and there are enough guards, and if the exact time of its attack is known, can't they at least shelter the residents inside the walls during the attack? Tina told him that, unfortunately, that's impossible. Meanwhile, the gates in the inner city district will be completely closed and everyone will start preparing for defense, so they will not have time to save the residents of the outer zone. MC asked her in confusion, what does this mean? The girl said, after Kadis passed, the outer district was half destroyed, but the residents were safe. She did not remember the details of the tragedy. After a short silence, she said that she was very sorry. The protagonist put his hand on hers and noted that, well, they should return to the original topic. Melty told him that he was right. She added, they received information that Kadis woke up and was already moving in their direction. Under the leadership of Zeril and his subordinates, the evacuation of residents outside the outer wall zone began. The protagonist thought, so that's why there are not many buyers here today. The woman said, Kadis may raid this area tonight. She lowered her head and apologized to him in a guilty tone for such a sudden move. Melty said, the people here have always lived in poverty and had a hard time making ends meet. However, with the opening of his store, the standard of living has improved, and now everyone can leave with a smile. She put her hand on her chest and thanked him, the hero of the convenience store. Zeril noted that he was sure that all the residents wanted him to be safe. Therefore, he asked him to evacuate right now, and then come back here again after Kadis leaves. Tamaki looked at MC with concern and called him by name. The protagonist told her not to make such a face. He wanted to promise that, but right now their opponent is the main monster of the game. Still, it couldn't be left like this. At that moment, Tina put her hand on his fist and looked at him meaningfully with a smile. He called her by name, and she smiled, letting him know that he made the right decision. He turned to everyone and said that he had decided everything. Zeril exclaimed, that's great. He will order his subordinates to take them to safety immediately. If they leave now, that will be just fine. The protagonist looked around at everyone, raised his hand with a clenched fist, and said, he, the hero of the store within walking distance, is going to defeat this earth dragon named Kadis. Zeril laughed at first and remarked, that's great. Then, like the others, the meaning of what the protagonist said dawned on him. They all stared at him in amazement. What did he say? And only Tina looked at him with a smile. When everyone regained the ability to think normally, Tamaki irritably quoted his phrase and asked him, did he think it touched them at all? The protagonist remarked in surprise. Somehow he did not expect such a protest, making a heroic decision. He added, although, it does not matter. The protagonist turned to the perplexed Zeril and asked him, could he tell him about the characteristics and general appearance of the dragon? The man hesitated and said that he didn't even understand the features of the dragon he had just learned about, and yet, he said that he was going to defeat it. Kadis rushed forward using his massive limbs. He was a muscular, strong earth dragon. His green body was covered with a hard shell, thick scales, and special bodily fluids. He could withstand magic and sword strikes without even a scratch, which is why he was given the name Kadis as a warning. The situation had gotten out of control, and now the military didn't know what to do. The protagonist said thoughtfully, I see. This was a pretty problematic dragon with a full range of resistance. Tamaki exclaimed, even if they were heroes, she didn't think they could do anything. He had a plan? Tina looked at him in surprise. The protagonist said that he had an idea. It was quite possible that everything would work out, although he hadn't tried it yet. Zeril stared at him in bewilderment. The protagonist noted that he wanted to thank the people of the outer wall area for giving him a place where he felt comfortable. But in order for this to work out, he would need their cooperation. He looked at everyone with determination and continued, it might be risky, but he was asking them to lend him a helping hand. Tina approached him first. She told him that she would always defend the interests of those she defended. She added that she believed in him, the hero, and she would be happy to help him. Tamaki exclaimed that she was in on it too. She really believed in him. Besides, she had promised to protect him, so she would help him too. The girl added that she had been friends with him for a long time, so she had no other choice. Melty also approached him and said that she did not have special abilities like him, but she could take care of the wounded. The protagonist smiled and thanked his friends. Zeril doubted. He didn't even know what to do, and what if everything would only go sideways because of him? The protagonist answered him that if the man helped him, then he, the protagonist, would help him too. Zeril resolutely said, well, in that case, will he tell him his secret plan to destroy Kadis? After some time, already late in the evening, one of the warriors reported to the protagonist that the preparations were complete. Now it only remained to light the torches one by one. MC thanked everyone from the bottom of his heart and asked them to evacuate those who had finished the work. The people answered him that they accepted his request. The protagonist thought over his plan again. Tamaki was waiting for the command from the store, controlling the drone, watching the store itself, the walls, and the shelter. Thanks to the help of the others, they had everything ready. Now everything depended on whether he could cope. Sweating from the tension, the protagonist understood what responsibility he had taken on himself. He peered ahead carefully and thought, where is this monster? He wishes he would show up already. The protagonist noted that so far he had managed to cope, but this time he would have to fight a mighty dragon. He looked at his hand. Would he be able to defeat him when he saw him up close? What if it didn't work? What if he only put everyone in danger? He had no right to do that. Tina came up to him and asked him anxiously, was he okay? The protagonist confessed to her, to be honest, he was very scared. The girl said soothingly, with their help, he would definitely succeed. The protagonist chuckled, he could use her confidence. She said, well, then she will tell him the magic words. He asked again in surprise, the magic words? The girl put her hand on his and said, even if he makes a mistake and the world hates him or turns away from him, she will always be by his side. Therefore, let him not be afraid of failure. She put her hand to her chest and soulfully, looking at him with loving eyes, continued, no matter if he is kind, brave, or the most cowardly, she will accept it and protect him. The protagonist looked at her, mesmerized. Tina smiled and asked him, well, Well, how is it? Does it give him relief? The protagonist clenched his hand into a fist and told her that it did. He thanked her and added that it was the best magic. They will definitely succeed. Tina looked at him with an angelic gaze. Suddenly, Tamaki told them that Kadis had arrived. The protagonist looked at the approaching monster and said, "Here it is." The dragon looked exactly as Zeril described it. MC told Tamaki to start guiding the monster with the drone. The girl told him that she understood him. She would try it sometime. The buzzing sound of the drone interested the dragon. He raised his head to see what it was. The protagonist said to Tina, "This earth dragon is much bigger than he expected." At that moment, Tamaki shouted to him that the dragon had fallen for their trick and was going after the drone. She added that she was expecting praise. The protagonist breathed a sigh of relief. They had done it. Tamaki exclaimed they would accept the challenge, even though their opponent was huge. Although, to tell the truth, her knees were already shaking. The protagonist said that everything would probably be fine. The protagonist thought that the store should not be much smaller than the monster's gigantic body. He wanted to believe that it would still withstand the collision. He mentally addressed his store with a request that it not let him down. MC warned his allies to get ready for the impact. They pressed themselves against the wall and froze in anticipation. They did not have to wait long. The dragon struck with such force that the friends flew off the wall like balls. The protagonist asked his friends if they were okay. Tamaki got the worst of it, but she said that she seemed to be safe. Tina said that they did it. The protagonist took the fire extinguishers and said that they were moving on. Running onto the roof of the store, MC told his allies to aim the fire extinguishers right at the dragon's face. Without thinking twice, they attacked the dragon. The protagonist noted that after all, the foam from the fire extinguishers alone was not enough. He realized that the monster was trying to protect its eyes. Although the outer shell was hard, everything inside was soft. Tina was preparing new fire extinguishers. The protagonist told Tamaki that they needed to focus their attack on the monster's eyes and mouth. He offered her to do it. The girl exclaimed that she agreed to it. She really wanted to go back to her parents. The protagonist thought that he had placed the store here to distract Kadis' attention. The building was supposed to act as a safety cushion, to stop the onslaught on the city and prevent damage. Taking the fire extinguisher from Tin, the protagonist noted if they could make Kadis retreat and then attack again. The protagonist raised the fire extinguisher up and with some effort, threw it into the enemy's mouth. He decided that he would continue throwing it until he flinched. After some time, MC saw that there were already a lot of improvised shells in the dragon's mouth. He was surprised. Still not? He would like to tear the monster away from the store for at least a second. He turned to Tamaki. He asked for a working fire extinguisher, but in response there was only silence. The protagonist turned around and was surprised to see that the girl was not there. He called out to her, but the girl was nowhere to be found. The protagonist asked Tin where his classmate was. MC looked at the destroyed wall and thought with fear, did it really fall? Meanwhile, the dragon roared with all its might, so that everything around shook. The protagonist covered his ears with his hands. Suddenly, he saw a spear pierce the monster's eye. He shouted his classmate's name and thought, an attack out of nowhere? Another spear flew at the monster. The protagonist looked at it in confusion. Suddenly, he heard her voice. That she did it. He looked around. Where was she? The girl said that with the help of assassin's stealth, she gouged out the eyes of the earth dragon. The protagonist chuckled. I see. He can't see her because of her ability? The protagonist noticed. She made him worry about her. Tina couldn't figure out which way Tamaki was. She exclaimed that she was very glad that her ally was safe. Tamaki's voice said, she is one of the heroes after all. It was easy for her. The protagonist praised her. Tina added, as expected of her. Tamaki, standing behind them, exclaimed, actually, she is here. At that moment, a loud crack was heard. The monster clenched its jaws and the fire extinguisher canisters creaked between its teeth. It let out a terrifying roar and went to attack the store. The protagonist exclaimed, this is very good. He is approaching the store. The protagonist turned to the girls and told them that before the monster crashed into the wall again, they should both leave here and head towards the city. The girls did not protest, but fulfilled his request. Tamaki shouted to Tina that they were retreating, and the allies climbed down the rope. Tamaki shouted to the protagonist that she was relying on him from now on. Tina asked him to be careful. The protagonist, with a determined expression, told them to leave it to him. He was left alone with the dragon. Tamata approached the improvised trap, offered the monster to begin his attack. The dragon, breathing heavily, prepared to attack. The protagonist thought that he needed to lure him until the last. The monster released steam from its mouth. The protagonist shouted at it, let it come. Don't delay with this. Seizing the moment of the dragon's jump, MC activated the disappearance of the store, and the monster fell with all his might into the trap prepared for it in advance. The protagonist exclaimed, that's it. Great. The traps they prepared for Kadis stopped him. As soon as he thinks, a store immediately appears nearby, but each time there is a slight vibration and a cloud of dust around, because between the store and the ground, there is a space into which it can fall. He thought, what if he did it in the air? He thought he would never have the opportunity to use a technique that required a difference in height, but now the conditions were right. He stood in the structure hanging on the rope and gave the agreed signal to Zeril. The man told his subordinates that they needed to pull the rope immediately. When they lifted the protagonist up to the roof level, he threw himself down onto the airbag and thought, let the monster try to swallow it. The protagonist activated the store, which fell right on the monster. A huge cloud of dust rose, splashes flew everywhere, and a heart-rending roar of Kadis was heard. One of the villagers noted that neither swords nor magic affected him, but this worked. Zeril, anxiously watching what was happening, said, he has enormous destructive power, but this is an ancient dragon, and his name is appropriate. Meanwhile, the protagonist watched the monster's attempts to free itself. He thought, even after such an attack, he is still trying to get up. Kadis wheezed and dug his claws into the ground. The protagonist understood perfectly well. This was to be expected. This is, indeed, an ancient dragon, and one blow will not kill him. He jumped into the rising device and noted, in this case, he will do what is necessary. It seemed that Zeril understood the thoughts of the protagonist and told the girls to move away. The protagonist used the disappearance of the store and then used the skill of the appearance of the store. He repeated this several times, and with each blow to the building, the dragon became more and more silent. MC decided that he would attack until he finished it off, so he activated the infinite appearance of the store. After a while, the monster finally became silent. The protagonist looked at it, barely standing on his feet, and thought, did he succeed? He collapsed onto the airbag and climbed down from it. The protagonist felt his legs buckling, but he understood that if he let his guard down even a little, Kadis would climb out, and they would all be in danger. Tamaki examined Tin's hands and began to heal them. Zeril and his assistants were still looking at the monster, not believing that it was finally finished. The protagonist looked at the lifting mechanism and realized that it was blurring before his eyes. MC wondered in surprise, did he really run out of magic? Do you even need magic power to use the store? Or was it just because of the lack of physical activity? His allies saw that the protagonist was about to fall. They were worried about him. He turned to his allies and fell. His friends called out to him in worry. The last thing he whispered before losing consciousness was that he asked them for forgiveness. The protagonist saw a destroyed city, a sea of blood, and people screaming for help. A little boy was shaking his mother, asking her to wake up. He heard someone calling him. Opening his eyes, the protagonist was surprised. Tina? Tamaki? The girls looked at him with concern. MC tried to get up and asked them what happened to Kadis. Tamaki told him to calm down and not to get up so abruptly. Tina touched his shoulder with her bandaged hand and said that he did it. Showing him the defeated monster, she added, this is really amazing. The protagonist heard the residents rejoicing. They were shouting that the heroes of the outer wall defeated Kadis. The girls pounced on him in a fit of emotion and joyfully exclaimed, they did it. They finally did it. The protagonist realized that on that day, the long-term misfortunes of the outer wall had come to an end. Kadis, the ancient earth dragon, was defeated. A few days after the defeat of Kadis, the city was in a festive mood. It seemed that not only the inhabitants, but the city itself was celebrating the victory. All the inhabitants, both inside and outside the walls, came out of their houses, drank, and congratulated each other. The protagonist's friends were also very happy about the victory. In loose dresses, with wreaths on their heads, they danced wildly to local folklore. But the protagonist, unfortunately, was exhausted, and he slept in his 24-hour store for several days. Speaking of disappointments, there was one more thing. He thought dejectedly. Why did his level not increase after defeating Kadis? Was it all because he killed him with a 24-hour store? In fact, it was death by physical object. But when he was just running a business, his level was increasing. He could only hope that soon he would have more opportunities to fight back. The protagonist began to dream of his best store, which had dragon paws, a head and a tail, and also, in the dragon's hands, a shield and a sword were flaunted. The protagonist began to think about a cool name in the status column, but at that moment his friends burst in and abruptly tore him out of his dreams. He shuddered at their appearance. Tamaki exclaimed, let him look at how much they were given in the city. It's a whole feast you can throw. Their hands were really breaking from all sorts of dishes. Tina asked him to eat more so that he would recover faster. They wanted to feed him, but the protagonist flatly refused the food offered to him. A few days later, the protagonist, as they say, returned to action. Zeril came to him. He happily told him that thanks to him, the hero, he made a lot of money. The man thanked the protagonist for this. He noticed that the store was still thriving. Zeril grabbed the box from the protagonist and said that he would help him. Residents began to enter the store, and everyone greeted the hero with a smile. MC sheepishly thanked everyone. He turned to Zeril and noticed that he was in a good mood. The protagonist, hugging his allies in a friendly manner, told Zeril that he was very grateful to them for everything they had done for him, and he would like to thank him somehow. Zeril exclaimed in bewilderment. His hero was seriously saying this now? Then let him give him all of Kadis. The protagonist smiled and told the man that he could take the monster if he wanted to. Zeril was ready to dance with delight. He exclaimed that the protagonist was the best. He turned to his subordinates and ordered them to get to work quickly. He added that they would sell everything they got to the idiot nobles at an exorbitant price. The protagonist chuckled. He had an impressive business acumen, but thanks to him, the head gave them a truly wonderful feast. When they were brought many delicious dishes, the protagonist greedily pounced on the food, exclaiming each time that it was simply divine. Tina told him that it was all from Mr. Zeril. He was so excited about the materials he received. The protagonist thought it was cool. Suddenly, someone entered the store. MC wondered who this time. To his great surprise, Tin's father came to the store, and, addressing the protagonist as a hero of a convenience store, said that it was a great honor for him to meet him. Adonis was also next to Sahara, who bowed politely to the protagonist and said that he was glad to meet him. Tina was surprised, father, and even Adonis came? Sahara expressed his hope that his ungrateful daughter does not interfere with his trade. The protagonist answered him in surprise that Tina always helps him. The girl's father said in amazement, "Is this true?" He turned to his daughter and remarked how lucky she was to have him. The protagonist was surprised. Is he really her father? His friends were also surprised by his unctuous speeches, because they knew how Sahara spoke to his daughter the last time they met, and spoke unflatteringly about the protagonist. They looked at him warily. Sahara wondered in bewilderment, what kind of reaction to words of gratitude? Suddenly he stunned everyone. Sahara asked MC how he felt about him becoming his daughter's husband. Kanata and Tina opened their mouths in surprise. Tamaki was indignant. What? No way, this simply will not happen. Tina indignantly asked her father, what is he talking about? She added that he was scaring away customers. It would hurt the business. Tamaki asked the protagonist in surprise, is this Tin's father? After a while, when Sahara left, Tina apologized to the protagonist for the inconvenience her father had caused. The protagonist hurried to reassure her that it was nothing serious. He was just a little surprised. Tamaki asked her, she hadn't been home for a long time, right? Her father must be worried about her. The protagonist thought she just didn't know what he was really like. The protagonist doubted that he was worried about his daughter. His previous visit had clearly shown a desire to take over his store. Tina said she doesn't think it's because of her. There were 46 children in her family, and she was the 23rd, so she couldn't count on her father's love. Tamaki exclaimed in amazement. That was more than in their class. Zeril grinned. So that's what they were like, nobles. He noticed, however, that he wanted to discuss something with the protagonist. The protagonist asked him what had happened. The man said that there was a possibility that the fame of the convenience store hero who had defeated Kadis had spread to the cities around Kadis and the neighboring countries. He added anxiously that if this news reached Grandale, they might try to do something. The protagonist told him that he understood they were quite capable of it. Zeril continued, besides, the kingdom of Grandale had finally started introducing its heroes recently. It seemed that a group of 4 chosen heroes led by Yuto had managed to conquer the eastern cave infested with goblins. The protagonist wondered if things had finally moved forward. So, the first mock battle was over. Zeril noticed a lone swordsman conquered the lizard swamp in the southeast and destroyed them all. The protagonist exclaimed in surprise, alone? This is simply impossible. The man agreed with him. After all, the lizards are much more powerful and pose a much greater threat. Rumor has it that a swordsman hero is the most likely candidate to defeat the Dark Lord. Tamaki laughed. By swordsman hero, he means Shiori? Wow, how cool. The protagonist said the name of his classmate and thought that she is a member of a gaming club and is an FPS expert. He got the impression that she is mainly a loner and does not like to play in a group with other people. Is she a lone wolf in this world too? Zeril laughed and remarked that when the achievements of the kingdom's valiant heroes reached other countries, if word spread that they had defeated the legendary Earth Dragon that others refused to exterminate, all attention would be focused on them, and they did not need that. The protagonist asked him in confusion, what was so funny? He thought for a moment, and then turned to the man, telling him that he had a favor to ask of him. Zeril told him that he would do anything. After a while, the protagonist launched a reconnaissance drone, and muttered that they had arrived earlier than expected. He used the information given to him, and with Zeril's help, reported the location of the hero from the shop to Grandale. However, his shop was now on the outskirts of the city. When he informed his allies that he was leaving the city, Tamaki asked him in surprise, why was he doing this? The protagonist answered her, he really liked it here, and he himself did not want to leave. But someone was looking for him. If the pursuers from Grandale came for him, they would devastate the city. He did not want to drag the residents into trouble, especially now that the threat of attack from Kadis had passed. Tamaki dejectedly said that she was sorry. They had become so friendly with everyone here. The protagonist agreed with her on this. He noted that now that the city gates were open, more food would be delivered to the territory of the outer wall. The gap between the rich and the poor would decrease, and yet, he thought it would be right to distribute the goods from the store to everyone. They would be useful for the time being. Tina said with warmth in her voice, she was sure that the residents of the outer wall would feel relieved. The protagonist noted that Grandale would not need this city once he left here. But if someone took the residents of the city hostage, it could become a problem. Zeril told him that he didn't have to worry about it. Even they would avoid using civilians at such a critical time. If they wanted, he could hire mercenaries from the inner walls with the money they gave him. Then the city would be protected. The protagonist thanked him with a smile. After a while, the protagonist saw his friends out of his shop and thought, now if he could delay the pursuers and buy time for Tina and Tamaki to get to the hill. Even if they had the advantage in numbers, only he could do it. With the help of a drone, he saw a large group of people and thought about it. As far as he could see, there was no Mrs. Crusaders or heroes here. There would be no negotiations. They came to deal with him. Suddenly, he saw magic passes and circles and wondered, was magic involved? The opponent scanned his shop. The main knight looked at the shop with confusion. The protagonist thought, We must hurry. The fire shutter with a magic barrier is very effective. The knights were confused. They probably only received information about the store before they were lined up. The main knight ordered his warriors to stop panicking. Don't let them just stand there like pillars and get him out of this strange building. He called everyone to attack, and the knights obediently ran to the store. But they were met with a powerful explosion. The protagonist noted that since there were so many of them, a standard smoke screen from a fire extinguisher might not be enough to get out. He cursed, "Damn Greendale, so many people and only him?" The knights attacked the store, trying to get into it through the roof. Approaching the hatch, the main knight raised his sword intending to break it. The main character thought, "No way, this is bad." Meanwhile, his allies were watching the store from the hill. Tina worriedly said, "Is everything okay with the protagonist?" Tamaki, hiding her anxiety, tried to calm down. She said she's sure that everything will be fine with him. After all, he won Kadis.